You guys, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. I'm Joe Klemczewski here with Dr. Kori Probst, and we are going to talk about some fitness entrepreneurship topics today, specifically how we as clinicians and coaches and consultants need to be so engaged in every client experience that they don't start seeing big reductions in motivation, or at least as they do, we know how to pick up on that. We know we have the tools, we have the skills to make sure that that doesn't knock them completely off their game. So who better to talk about this than health psychologist Kori?
Well, thanks, Joe. Yes, so I received an email from one of our owners, and she has this client who has been really going strong for 8 months, losing consistently, but has waned in motivation. How many of us have experienced that? And personally and professionally with our clients. So the last several months, she's kind of been, just doing things a little bit haphazardly. And tracking has been kind of here, there, just spotty. She doesn't lose, but she doesn't gain. So our owner said, it's safe to say that she's mastered maintenance. So for the last 3 months, she's just kind of been fluctuating in this small little range of weight. She said she does travel a ton, so it's tougher to totally stay on point for this woman. So tracking's been, what happens is she'll track halfway through the day and then not finish or decide not to track at all. She did say that this person has been mindful, though. So she's paying attention. She's aware, but she's not doing the things that she was for the first 8 months when she was losing consistently. Our clinician said, I've suggested we take a diet break and or kind of reverse diet her for a while to give her just a mental, psychological kind of like reboot. But she's not exactly sure that that's even what's necessary, or if this client is going to want to do that or needs it. She said, I've asked her why. We always come back to that question. Why are you doing this when it comes to motivation? And her client has just expressed that she doesn't have any. She's like, I don't have any motivation. I don't want to track food. I don't want to be mindful. And I'm tired. Mm-hmm. So our clinician, of course, wants her to succeed. The client has expressed a desire to continue leaning out. And she just doesn't want to do the things that she thinks are necessary in order to see that result. So how do we re-spark motivation in clients? The first thing that came to mind with this situation, Joe, was that it's totally natural and normal after a period of time to start coasting and to put less effort into our process after, a certain period of putting a lot of effort into it. It's almost like, well, we've done the work, right? So now that work that's kind of been put in the savings account is going to carry us through. And we're not necessarily thinking about this consciously. Like, I'm going to coast now. I did the work. It'll take care of itself. That's just kind of under the surface of what can occur to move us into that sort of, it's not even a motivation. It's just it's a waning. The second thing is this woman travels a lot. She's tired. And so we all know what it's like to be very fatigued, very tired. In situations like that, we don't have as much energy to do what would typically be high on our priority list. There are things there are meatballs that are going to fall off the plate. There are things that are going to fall off the table and be put on the back burner. I like to kind of look at it like this. We get into these situations, or we even she needs kind of to recommit. She needs a review and a recommitment period. And a lot of times when we get to that place, it's like, I need to do this. I need to add on this. This needs to be at the top of my priority list. And we generate this big, long list of things we need to do and should be doing. When what can oftentimes be a lot more practical and effective is to optimize instead of adding. So what I mean by that is it's like a pruning process. We get rid of what's not working instead of adding on a whole bunch of things that we think are going to help it work more effectively. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we're optimizing the process. Ralph Waldo Emerson has this really good quote that kind of speaks to this concept, and it goes like this. As the gardener, and we're all sort of gardeners of our own lives, right? By severe pruning, he says, forces the sap of the tree into one or two vigorous limbs. So you should stop off your miscellaneous activity and concentrate your force on one, two, or a few points. That's it. Drop all the unnecessary crap. So for this woman, it might be our clinician asking her to really take a look at, given what's going on, what would you like to cultivate? Because here's the other piece of it. Our clinician understands that motivation really has a lot to do with intrinsic properties. So what do we hold dear? What do we value? What's our code of ethics look like? If we really want to help this woman, we got to kind of move out of tracking. Got to track your food. Got to log it. Got to weigh yourself every day. That's the practical stuff. She already knows that. And get more into the more essential kind of core driven things that are important to her, the reasons that she's doing it. Make sense?
Yeah. If I can jump in and just address our Diet Doc program owners' initial questions on the physical side of what to do.
Yep.
I will always go back to the fact that the way we make decisions is a neuron by neuron phenomena. Mm-hmm. And so like coding, there are binary if-then steps. And if you get those out of order, like all of a sudden she's over here having plateaued and she's lost her motivation and searching for a why. Mm-hmm. And you said that the clinician said she's no longer doing the things that made it work before. Mm-hmm. Well, if you want to get back on track and start achieving some of that progress you were, let's actually go back to what was working before. Mm-hmm. And as you've always said, Kori, sometimes it's not that we need some grand emotional shift and then we'll behave differently. We need to start behaving differently. Correct. And the emotions will follow. So I would say, first of all, if she has been no longer tracking her food as carefully, she's doing some traveling, and her weight has plateaued, then I'm not sure she needs a diet break because she's already given herself a diet break.
I agree.
If she's not losing body fat, her calories have been at maintenance levels. Exactly. And so you don't necessarily need to do that. You can get right back into a losing pathway. If she was very physically strict and just swore up and down that she was still eating the same things, then I could assume physiologically metabolism is becoming adapted a little bit and we might want to take a little break. But I would definitely, address it as you are, where it's, we all, we can't stay in fifth gear all the time. Yep. But I also don't want you to be somebody who loses 60 pounds and then gains it back. So let's really focus on this. This is a big deal. This is a time for us to learn some stuff. Yeah. And the fact that you have been in maintenance for a while, you've, quote, mastered that, that's a good thing. You now know what that takes. But I'll let you pick back up here, Kori, I'm glad you pointed out those aspects of it, and because I completely agree with you. If she's been maintaining for 3 months, then she's already reversed, right? Mm-hmm. And to look at it, let's look at the strengths in that as opposed to these are all the things that are going wrong.
what if her goal changed? How come we haven't even asked her that? Like, does she really want to continue? Is it worth doing these things that she was doing now? It was then. Maybe she's actually comfortable at this weight. She has the level of flexibility that she wants. She fits in her clothes, has greater confidence. Like, maybe we need a review of have the goals shifted a little bit. You know, there are kind of two types of goals. There's what are called atelic goals, and these are the ones that end. They're outcome driven. So it could be, I'm running a 5K. When the 5K is over, the 5K is over. It could be that number on the scale. You reach the number on the scale, there's nothing after that. Okay, it could be, I'm going to make this much money this year. This is what my income is going to be. And then there are atelic goals, which are the ongoing ones. They're the enduring ones. They're the ones kind of really significantly tied to our values. So as an example for me, I want to be a compassionate person. There's no end point to that. It's a practice for the rest of my life. So for our clinician too, to be asking this person, you know, what are you cultivating in your life as a result of you doing this? It gets her away from an outcome to be thinking about what's driving you. If we just, let's take the word motivation and come back to like its root, motive. What are your motives? And then why becomes a really important question again, because it could look like this. All right. In situations of lower-ish motivation, what do? Well, first thing is we don't castigate ourselves. We don't shame ourselves. Like, this is a normal phenomenon. This is what motivation is going to do, because it's impacted by the circumstances of our lives. I wasn't motivated today to get on my bike. I really was not looking forward to my over-under intervals that I knew were going to be really freaking hard and uncomfortable. And after the third one, the thoughts that were in my head were, I would like to be done now. I'd like to get off my bike right now. Kori didn't get off her bike because one of her telic goals is to not give up on herself, to be disciplined, right? Part of my code of ethics is to don't give up.
And some days I know you love getting on your bike. Other days you don't.
Oh, yeah.
But because your overall goal is to reach a certain level of performance and just be healthy, you do it anyway. Sometimes you don't feel like it. And I would say this, this is the last thing I'll contribute to your topic today.
To do it. Yep.
It's that we have to remember that biology and psychology is efficient. It's evolutionarily efficient. And so your brainstem is telling you eat everything all the time. Your brainstem is saying, no, don't get on the bike and waste that energy. And so it takes your neocortex to say, wait a second, but I want this instead. I want this goal that I don't get immediate gratification for. And so sometimes you do have to have that little internal battle and say, no, like I'm going to do what I did back then when I was making the progress I wanted. I may not feel as motivated now, but I'm going to win this decision right now.
Well, I think that's where people get bogged down, is in thinking and believing that if the goal is the right goal, that motivation is just going to be super consistent the entire time. It's going to be like we're in fifth gear, driving down the highway, 80 miles an hour. Well, guess what? Traffic slows down. Sometimes there's construction. Sometimes it comes to a complete stop. There are detours.
Sometimes you hit a deer.
Sometimes you hit animals. Yeah. Sometimes there are motorcycles who are splitting lanes.
Only in California.
Oh, don't get me started. Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, you heard it from Dr. Probst. You should just expect that motivation is going to shift around. You're gonna have days that are phenomenal and you're feeling it, but sometimes you can create those feelings if you just stay consistent with your overall goal, which, as Kori said, can be a review. And to answer our Diet Doc program owner, it is very important just to have these conversations with your clients. If you're a coach listening to this, it's not about just numbers. It's not about having the perfect plan, the perfect meals, the perfect food sources, and all of a sudden everything's great. These are human beings with psychological ups and downs, and we need to be aware of those.
Well said, Joe. Thank you.
All right, guys. So there you go. Dr. Kori Probst on her game, of course, dealing with all of these great psych topics. And if you want more of those, make sure you subscribe either on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube. Our channel's there. You can always go to our website, thedietdoc.com, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.